My dear students, let's complete chapter 12 in Baron's sad book, Taxonomy. Now we're going to talk about evolutionary trends in classifying animals. We classify animals according to having specialization of tissues or having germ layers, having body symmetry, or having head. Does it mean that not all animals have head? Yes. Or the body cavity formation. Let's know together what are those things. First of all, we should know that there are different levels of organization of any body. The cell, which is the basic unit, the tissue composed of similar cells to perform certain function, and organ, it's the group of tissues that work together also to perform a certain function. Let's talk about the first trend, which is the having the germ layers. Germ layers, what the meaning of germ layers? Those are the main layers that form various tissues and organs. Where can I find those layers? During the embryonic development, during the formation of the embryo, the first stages of the formation of the embryo. Let's see together what are those germ layers. Here is an embryo. Embryo in the first stage, the cells will form like a ball. This ball composed of 3 layers. 3 layers. The first layer is ectoderm, the middle layer mesoderm, and the inner layer endoderm. Ectoderm is the outer layer. So what do you think those cells will become? Those cells will become the skin and nerve cells. Mesoderm is the inner middle layer, so this layer will become the blood and bones. Endoderm, the inner layer, which will become the digestive system, viscera, internal organs. Also, organisms or animals are different in having those 3 layers. Not all animals have those 3 layers. If they have 3 layers, they are called triploblastic animals. Let's see the next trend in classifying animals, which is body symmetry. According to the body symmetry, we can know whether this animal is primitive. Primitive means simple animal, or sophisticated and complex animals. If the animal exhibits radial symmetry, this is a primitive animal. So most primitive animals exhibit radial symmetry. Look at this radial symmetry. This is the radial symmetry. There is a central axis, and the animal can be divided into different parts through this central axis. What about the most complex animals, or the animals that are complex and sophisticated? They exhibit bilateral symmetry. What the meaning of bilateral symmetry? Bilateral symmetry means there is longitudinal axis, and this longitudinal axis divides the body into right and left sides that are mirrored to each other. Let's see together. Like this insect, there is a longitudinal axis that divides the body into only 2 halves, not like radial symmetry. Look, it divides the body into many different parts. And the left, also the left and right sides are mirror to each other. We have only one exception. We said that the primitive animals exhibit radial symmetry and the sophisticated animals exhibit bilateral symmetry, but echinoderms, they are considered like an exception. Why? Because they are an advanced phylum. This phylum is advanced, should exhibit bilateral, but it exhibits only bilateral symmetry during larva formation, during only one stage of the life cycle, and then it will revert back to the radial symmetry. And most of the bilateral symmetry are most sophisticated animals, so they are triploblastic animals. They have the 3 germ layers. Let's talk about cephalization, or having head. As I told you, not all animals have head. Formation of head is called cephalization. So, of course, cephalization will appear in which animals? The animals which have bilateral symmetry or radial symmetry? Bilateral symmetry, because bilateral symmetrical animals are more sophisticated. Having bilateral symmetry and cephalization means that there is brain and ganglia at the anterior end, and they have also some reproductive structures, excretory structures, digestive structures, but in the posterior end. What the benefit of having cephalization? Cephalization enables animals to move faster to capture their prey. It improves the movement of animals. Simple animals like sponges and cnidarians, they don't have head. The formation of head starts from flatworms, then to all other sophisticated animals like chordates. All those animals show cephalization. Look here, the human is one of the sophisticated animals. It has head. There is cephalization, while sponges here. Did you find any head in this structure, in this figure? Of course, no. Then we can use also the body cavity formation. The body cavity formation during also embryologic development, we can use the body cavity formation to classify animals. If animals have body cavity that is fluid filled and completely surrounded by mesoderm tissue, in this case, this animal has coelom. So what's the coelom? Coelom is a fluid-filled body cavity that is completely surrounded by mesoderm. What's the benefit of having this body cavity that's completely surrounded by mesoderm? It means that there is a space for elaborate organ systems like digestive tracts or cardiovascular system. So do you think that the animals that have coelom are more sophisticated or simple animals? Of course, sophisticated animals, because they have organ systems or more complex structures. That's why they classified animals into 3 types. Number 1, acoelomates. Acoelomates means they don't have body cavity at all. Like what? Like primitive animals, like sponges. What if they have body cavity or like a fluid-filled tube, but it's not completely surrounded by mesoderm? In this case, those animals are called pseudocoelomates. Pseudocoelomates, they have fluid-filled tube, but it's not completely surrounded by mesoderm. When can I say that these animals are coelomates? If they have body cavity that is fluid-filled and completely surrounded by mesoderm, like annelids, mollusks, arthropods, all chordates. What about pseudocoelomates, like nematodes and roundworms? Look here, the body cavity is colored by this color. Here, there is no body cavity, so acoelomate. Here, there is body cavity, but in the form of a tube that's not completely surrounded by mesoderm. Here, the body cavity is completely surrounded by mesoderm.